How to magnetize a baby. First, start with a baby. It doesn't really matter whose baby it is as long as it's between 9 and 12 weeks old and preferably being breastfed. Next, take a teaspoon of sugar and a cup of water and mix well. Now sit face to face about 15 inches apart. Take the baby's pacifier and dip it in the sugar water. And while maintaining eye contact, stick the pacifier back in his mouth. Keep eye contact for another 3 or 4 minutes, and when the timer goes off, stop. Now leave the room and in a few minutes come back with a couple of other people. Guess what? The baby will ignore everyone but you, and he'll smile and coo in an effort to get your attention. What's going on is that the baby is conditioned to the mild sweetness of breast milk, and you've just applied sucrose or table sugar to his taste buds. That triggers a nerve impulse that goes to the base of his brain, where opiate chemicals, cousins of heroin and morphine, are released. This in turn releases another chemical called dopamine. That's the substance that generates the pleasure sensation in our bodies. So the baby experiences this pleasure while he's looking at you, and now associates your face with that sensation. He's now magnetized to you. If you haven't already figured this out, this trick could be pretty handy for grandparents. Hospitals have been using a variation of this for years. Nurses know that if you need to draw a blood sample from a newborn, you can drop a few drops of sugar water in its mouth and the baby will cry less from the needle stick. What's going on is that the sugar water has triggered the release of a natural opiate into his system. But what's really interesting is that the technique doesn't work if the baby's mother's a drug addict. That's because the baby's been bathed in opiates for 9 months, so the relatively mild dose of sugar water doesn't even faze him. The point is that sugar is essentially a drug. Not necessarily as bad as heroin or meth or cocaine, but it produces the same type of reactions as the brain as does a hard drug. And when we're grown-up babies, this is the kind of sugar that we take, and it produces these types of effects. Researchers doing brain scans on lab rats have found that when a rat addicted to morphine becomes aware that he's about to get his fix, his brain lights up. And as it turns out, when a rat conditioned to like sweets becomes aware that he's about to get his fix of sugar, the same reaction occurs in his brain. We started out laughing about how to magnetize a baby, but the truth is, sugar is addictive. And sad to say, it's an addiction that begins at the cradle and it continues to the grave. Most of us try to avoid sugar in order to keep the pounds off or because of diabetes. But as bad as these are, they're just the tip of the iceberg. Research has now linked sugar consumption to pancreatic cancer, heart disease, immune system failure, osteoporosis, and a long list of other diseases. Today, avoiding sugar is almost impossible. As you'd expect, it's in virtually every fruit juice and soft drink on the market. But once you learn to read food labels accurately, which isn't easy, you realize that it's now in foods that you wouldn't dream you'd find it in. Things like mustard, French fries, potato chips, and popcorn. It's even in vitamins and lipstick. The food companies know that sugar's addictive and that the foods that contain sugar always outsell those that don't. So why not put it in everything? That brings us to the next video in this series. You can't avoid sugar if you don't know where it's hiding, or how to read between the lines when reading food labels.